Hello, welcome to the impzonepod podcast. We're back again talking more TNA wrestling shenanigans for the upcoming Genesis. Now, a couple of matches that I didn't notice that they had announced for as well, but like most of these matches we knew that they were probably building towards. The most obvious one was the Hardys versus the Righteous match. I honestly don't know what to say about this. I feel like the Hardys have held those belts long enough at this point. I said this before, I think. It's time to move those belts along to somebody else. Like, I don't know whether I believe in the Righteous because just the way that they've been built or they've been presented thus far doesn't make me feel like they're gonna be the ones to do it. So, yeah, if they win here, like, that'll be cool in some ways, but I honestly don't feel like they will because they haven't been built up enough. Like, they've had a good story, but they haven't really been built up enough. So, yeah, and it's only been like a month for them to build up to this, really. So, again, it's just like, yeah, you haven't built up enough. You need to, like, yes, again, you could, anything can happen in professional wrestling or whatever, but, like, for somebody to come in and expect something, like, that's what I'm expecting. You know, like, I'm not expecting them to win because, hey, you haven't built up this idea that, hey, they're going to win or whatever, you know. So, I feel like that's something that, you know, and something in here that I've said before, I said like almost slightly, it was like the Righteous have said that they didn't really want to fight the Hardys or whatever. In some ways, I feel like that has to be a lie. Like, that has to be them being like trying to get underneath their skin and trying to be like goading them into challenging them with the titles on the line so that they, you know, can get what they want. You know what I mean? So, because if they don't want those titles, then they don't want to be here, type thing. That's my perception of, like, they should. In fact, once this match has been announced and the Hardys say, you know, we're going to put our titles on the line against you, they should say, this is what we wanted all along, you know, whatever. We wanted you to put your titles on the line against us so that, you know, we just told you all this stuff to goad you into doing this, and it worked or whatever. You know, because otherwise it makes them look silly or whatever, or not unambitious, but like just, yeah, very, very silly. You know, like, what are you even doing here if you're not like wanting to challenge people and wanting to win, you know, at a certain point. But anyway, yeah, so unfortunately I do think that the Hardys like will win this match. And I know some people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I understand people really love the Hardys and whatnot. And I liked the Hardys, but the thing is, they haven't performed on the level of which I feel like they should be performing. And that's just due to a number of different reasons. And I do try to give them some slack and whatnot for their age and whatnot and everything that they've done in the business and all this stuff. But yeah, I'm just over the Hardys because, like, to me, they're a nostalgia act that has gone on too long. So I'm already over it. Whereas most of the audience is like, cool, the Hardys, whatever. You know. Whereas I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's find somebody to replace these guys because these guys aren't performing on the level at which I think should be. Like, as far as like fan signings and everything else, they're doing an amazing job, and interviews and all this other stuff. That's amazing. That's like, no one's on par with them. But that's also the problem. You should also be saying, you know, here's our other guys that are going to put in the work, or other guys need to pull their finger out and do that work, because it's so important to have new people to go head with. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with that one anyway. Next, AJ Francis versus Rich Swann. We've been talking on and off about this situation for a while with Rich Swann and the first class situation. Unfortunately, I feel like Swann is going to lose. Swann is not one of those upper level guys anymore. And I feel like he hasn't really been since like he had those accusations come out against him and whatnot and all that sort of stuff. And he's really only just sort of fairly recently returned to TNA. And like even in his last run before that, he wasn't really an upper level guy anymore. Like he still performs on an upper level basis. He's amazing in that ring. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, I just don't see him winning because I feel like even if Kazarian perhaps is retaining the title or Nick Nemeth is somehow getting the title or whatever, the title is on a heel effectively for the next couple of months, you still want to build up Francis. I don't know whether in ring Francis is the greatest. Definitely don't think he is, but like I still think he can be one of your main event level guys. I don't think maybe he can't really be your main event guy, but I still feel like he should be in that mix because, you know, he's so good on the mic and you can tell so many great stories with him and whatnot. And this sort of thing would really boost him up and build him up into the next level of like he's beaten a former world champion, so now you can start saying he's on that level and then start like having him beat some other people that are more in that higher level so that he's on par with them. Maybe again, like I said this before, he works really well in a tag team because the other person can handle most of the match, whereas he can come in and just do his big 5 moves of doom or whatever else it is, and then, you know, whatever, the match is pretty much over or whatever. Or whatnot, or the babyface is out there, come back somewhere in there, and then whatever, it continues or whatnot. So I feel like he would, but I still feel like he could be in that picture. I don't know. You've really got to stick him with the right opponents who can, like even BDE. He really fed well for BDE, and like so that proves to me like, and BDE isn't like a very like seasoned veteran who knows what he's doing, but he has a good style for Francis to bounce off of. So that makes it like easy. And I think this match will be very similar to the match that he had with BDE, and that match was really good with BDE. So this should be really good, and it will be better, I think, because there'll be more emotion and whatnot behind it, because a lot of people really like Swanee, and they've seen him for a long time, and you know they don't really like Francis, I know, but yeah, like there's a lot to it, more layers to it than that. Obviously, we know that Nick Nemeth is calling your shot, but like, is he really? I've already talked about it here and there, on and off, but we don't really know if that's what's gonna happen. Like, you can always say this is what's gonna happen, or this is what's gonna happen, or whatever else it is. Never, especially when a contract can be cashed in effectively at any time, do not believe somebody when they say this is when I'm going to cash it in. Like, especially somebody, Nick Nemeth, who's a heel right now. So he could cash it in on the AMC debut. I don't think that that's all that good. Maybe it would work, but I still don't think it's all that good of an idea. I just don't know. It's a really tough position. I said this before. I feel like they're building to some version of a triple threat between these three, between Kazarian, Santana, and Nemeth at Genesis. So, like, my thought would be like I don't know. I still feel like should the title be on Kazarian? I don't really know. Who should the title be on? I mean, the fans really want it to be on Santana, but the thing about putting the belt on Santana is you've got to have a whole bunch of other people for him to run through. So you've got to build up guys like Mace Warner. You've got to build guys up like AJ Francis. You've got to build these guys up, even if they lost to Santana a while back. Same thing for Mustafa Ali. You got to build him up. You got to build up as many heels for him to face as possible. And even if he's not going to win it, you've still got whatever it is for him to do for the next however many months or however many weeks it is between now and whenever he is going to get the belt. So there's no difference between him getting the belt and him not getting the belt. He still needs opponents to face for him to do things for the next however long it's going to be, at least the next year. And, same thing, like for Kazarian or whoever's, or Nick Nemeth or whatever, whoever's going to be the champion, unless it is Santana, but still, you still need opponents for the other guys. Like, Kazarian can still be a guy to challenge, Santana or whatever down the track or whatever, get his rematch, etc. All these things. So, yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what the picture looks like in their booking brain. And like I said before, maybe I really don't want them to hot potato the title. I've had enough of the friggin' hot potatoing of the title. It is freaking ridiculous how much hot potatoing of the title, of not just the world title, but of several of the titles there have been, And I get why they did this, but yeah, I don't know. I really don't know that this was maybe I don't know, maybe Kazarian should have won it at Bound for Glory. I don't know. I think, would fans be more pissed off if Kazarian had have cashed in and won the title then and held it till now? I don't know. But it's kind of like a weird situation sort of thing, because it's I don't know. You've just if Santana hadn't have won it, then I guess it would have been what would you say? It would have been he still needs to win it type thing, So I don't know. And he doesn't have a real claim to the title. He was just in the match. He didn't but then you're saying, well, will Trick Williams invoke his rematch or whatever? And he still hasn't. Because again, he's in WWE. He's doing stuff on the main roster now. So obviously he's not coming back to TNA, and he doesn't really care, because that was just a thing that he was booked for. But again, it just shows you that, again, WWE doesn't really care to say, oh yes, finish your narrative or whatever else it is, or we'll put your guy over twice or whatever else it is, because that's the right thing to do, or whatever. No, we don't really care. Whatever, bye. We did your thing. We didn't do it properly, but because we still had that rematch, maybe we'll cash it in one day or something. Who cares? Whatever. Who knows? Whatever. But whatever. But yeah, it is one of those things of saying, well, this is a fine kettle of fish. I think this is the final update as well. I want to say that really quickly, before we get into the last little thing that's on this list for now, at least, because next week will be the live AMC debut and the go home show. So I feel there might be some pre-show stuff. There might be some stuff for the women's tag team champions and some other stuff or whatever else. But at the end of the day, this will be the main chunk of stuff. So there's nothing I can do about finding out oh yes, they debuted this person or they debuted that person, because you know, like that's going to happen live, and it's only going to be like 2 days or whatever it is before the event. So I guess it's not technically the last one, but I don't really expect a whole lot more to be like there on the main card. I expect most of those things to be either on the pre-show or inconsequential at the best, because again, like those things are like things that are only going to build around the next couple of days or the next couple of days after that. So it's like, well, obviously in that case nothing's really happening because you haven't had a a real story or a real thing going on and everyone knows about it kind of thing. Well, you kind of had, but like you haven't really, so no one really cares and no one really wants to care anyway because you don't care. So it's like, well, or you don't care enough. Like, so yeah, I don't know. That's just the way it is. It is what it is, but yeah. Anyway, the last one is Laying Lee versus Danny Luna. Please, for the fucking love of God, put the fucking belt on Danny Luna then. If you're gonna have this match, and I said this before, I do not want to see Danny lose because I am so invested in this thing that you've done now with her. She's gone through hell and high water for so long, and it's BS. And I think that she could be, if you put the belt on her and leave it there for 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever else it is, I don't give a rat's rectum, that she could hold that belt and she could, hold this division together. So far with Laying Lee, you have done very little to really establish her as the woman, as the Knockouts champion. She's just been a tag team person of the last few matches and tapings and whatever else that she's done. So again, it feels like this was done because WWE said, this is what we want. After them saying, hey, this is what we want with Kalani. Oh shit, no, we can't do that with you and with Kalani because now we want her. That's after them saying, hey, this is what we want to do with JC Jane. Oh no, sorry, wait, we can't do that because now we really need her. Bye. Like, they've screwed us over so many friggin' times with this belt. Like, and this is what I say about like the whole NXT TNA experience, whatever. If they're actually going to come to the ballpark and they're actually going to say, okay, we're going to pull our finger out and we're actually going to give you something, finally, like besides like Obafemi and besides like Trick Williams and maybe JC Jane that we actually only gave you for a month, and Kalani, which we only gave you for a month or whatever, basically a month, and that one AJ Styles appearance. Everybody else that we've sent has been a lower card person. A person that just is here, they have a face and a pulse, and that's about it. That's all we've got for you. We don't care about sending our, more, and even then, again, you could say, well, they don't have that many more upper card guys. Like, oh, yes, they sent Ethan Page. I forget about Ethan Page, but whatever. I think, was that when, after he'd lost the NXT champion? Was that before? I can't remember. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But anyway, he was in that upper card position, I'm pretty sure. Now he's like in the mid card position. So yes, I guess there we go. One more. But again, for most of this run and whatnot, they have sent lower card guys. And TNA has sent everything that they've had. All their upper card guys, all their main event guys, but a couple who said, no, we're not going to do that, or whatever. And whatnot. But yeah, they've done everything that WWE has asked them. They said, hey, we want to put this belt on this person. Cool, okay, yep, sure, whatever. We'll put it on JC Jane. We want to put this belt on Trick Williams. Yep, sure, whatever. we want to put this belt on Kalani Jordan. Yep, sure, whatever. They have agreed to, like, seemingly everything, and perhaps I'm not in on the creative meetings and they actually did say no to stuff. But, like, for the most part, it seems like they have said yes to everything. Like, and, like, Laying Lee is just another, like, I don't, like, at least she is with us, but it was like, this is what WWE wants type thing, not what the TNA fans want or TNA wants, so that's where I'm at with this. Like, if Laying Lee continues to hold the belt, in my opinion, there is very little people on that roster for her to face, realistically. Like, there isn't. Like, everybody else is in a tag team, pretty much, and every other person who isn't is a babyface. So, and maybe again, you might say, oh, well, they might debut some more women. 1 or 2 women isn't going to cut it. You need, like, half a dozen, at least, for her to... That, or you need to turn people heel. Like, you need to turn 3 or 4 people heel or something, and actually make them single stars. So right now, that division wouldn't really work with Laying Lee being the champion. I think the division will work better with Danny being the champion, but maybe not that much better because, like, again, you might feel like, well, there's only a handful of people that she can work with that aren't in a tag team or whatever. But again, like, I think it'll be so much easier much easier to debut people as babyfaces, because when somebody new comes into a place, like, especially now, people are happy to see them. Like, so it's a lot different now, where it's like people are more invested in somebody coming in, like, in that regard. People can get heat. Obviously, you can debut as a heel or whatever, but, like, it's so much easier to come in as a babyface. So much easier, because people will go, oh my god, it's this person or that person. They've crossed the line. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, and all of that. So it's so much easier to debut. Plus, again, like, you've got two major natural stories with Danny Luna being the champion, versus there's maybe kind of one that you've kind of got with Laying Lee that you've already pretty much breezed through. Though, again, you could go back to it, but then again, you kind of need to turn Xia Brookside heel, which I don't really think would work. That, or you need to turn Laying Lee heel, which, again, I don't really think works. So, I don't know, like, maybe Xia could be a good heel, but, like, I think that I see her mainly being a babyface. So, I can just see so much more for Danny Luna. But I don't know if they've built Danny up enough in some ways. I don't know. I actually feel like she's right on that cusp of, like, breaking out into that main event scene. I think. That's what I think. I think that there's a lot of us TNA fans that have seen her for the last, 2 or 3 years, whatever it's been, in that division, plugging away, doing everything that, that they asked of her, and now she's getting an opportunity finally to be the woman, the top person. I don't know. I just don't know. I really kind of want Danny to win. That's where I'm at, even though she's a heel. Like, I've seen her throughout this whole run. You've all seen her throughout this whole run. Like, I feel like it's her time, man. I kind of do. Like, it's time to, like, and again, I hate the fact that this belt's only really been on lay for, like, maybe a couple of months. So I feel like maybe you could stretch this out and make it like a hardcore match down the road, but it's time. Like, I feel like, again, that could be the rematch. That would be better, because, again, like, you start to feel like, well, we need, like, again, like, that's been the problem of having a lot of these like rematches with people, it's like, oh, okay, cool. We don't care. Well, most people don't care because it's like there's nothing extra on the line, or there's nothing extra to make it like, oh shit, it's a hardcore match, or it's this match, or it's that match, or whatever it is. There's something else to draw you in and say, oh my god, what the heck, this is going to be another one of those dog collar matches, or this is going to be another one of those, bloody affairs, or this is going to be this or that, or whatever it's going to be. Like, every match has just been, it's a match. Regular old match. Not all of them, but again, like, a lot of the rematches have been, like except for, like, the ones that are triple threats or whatever, like, the one that's upcoming with, like, Moose and that's a triple threat. But, like, there's been so many, like, and the upcoming match with Santana and Kazarian, that's a regular-ass match. But again, they haven't really had a match before, kind of. So you can kind of get away with that, I guess, a little bit more. But it would be like, and it is a lot better because it is like, oh shit, now it's not on Genesis, now it is on, the AMC debut and whatnot, so it's coming early, kind of thing. And maybe if, again, you, like, I don't know whether the title will change there either, but, like, if you're gonna change the title, then you can see that that Genesis would be the rematch. I don't know whether that works. I think it would work better if you had him kind of, like, getting it at Genesis, honestly. Maybe, I don't know. I just, like, perhaps that's the thing. Like, despite, like, sometimes the mismatch of things, or the, I don't know, like, the hot potatoing, all these issues, all these different things that have happened, all the kind of like, oh, well, was this the right decision? I don't know, or whatever. Like, at the end of the day, is it entertaining, or is it, like, fun, or is it good, or is it, like, that thing that we come to and go, oh, shit, Santana's finally done it somehow, some way, like, or whatever it is. Again, like, that's the question. Like, that's what draws people in. That's what gets people to be like, we're invested in this person, like, we want to see this person win. Okay, now you're going to be like, okay, well, if he wins on the AMC debut, what does that mean? Like, you're starting to do the Steiner math, like, type thing. And the same thing here, like, Danny, it's like, they've been building her up, kind of, and they've kind of got this big feud with her and Indy. They've kind of got some stuff there for her and some other people that, like, Jody Threat, like, because they were the tag team together for so long, they've kind of faced each other, against each other, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now it's like, okay, like, let's go in this direction, or whatever. I just think, like, if you're talking about, like I said before, if you're talking about people that Lay can face after this, it's like, maybe Tessa Blanchard, that's about it. But you've kind of already knocked her off the perch in some ways for having Lay beat her in that tag team match. And again, I feel like perhaps you're not wanting to go in that direction again because of all the negative fan, like, perception, despite whatever, the situation is. I don't want to go into it again because it's so much to have to freaking get into. The ifs and the buts and the candies and the nuts and everything else that has to do with that. So I often just tend to forget about it, and that's another reason why, just to tend to forget about her. Like, like, leave her out of things. Just, she's there, and she, like, maybe she's a manager now. I don't know. Like, leave her as a manager, or, part of this, faction, kind of, with Mila Moore and Victoria Crawford, and sometimes she wrestles on TV, but that's about it. Especially don't have her wrestle on pay-per-views, especially singles matches. Like, let's just leave it for a while. Let's just keep our head down on that for a while. Let's just roll with the punches for a while and let's just, make other people more interesting and onto that level that she's on so that we can replace her and move out of that space as quickly as possible. Because I don't really think, again, the perception is worth, keeping her there or keeping things going there. I just think it's time to say, okay, we've tried with this, no, that's it. Nope. We tried. It wasn't a success. Okay, that's fine. But this is what we've done now. We've decided, okay, that's the direction we're going to go with you, and this is the spot you're going to be in. And, I think that she has to, be fine with that. That, or say, okay, cool, well, what are my options type thing. I don't think I'm going to go to AEW. I don't think I'm going to go to WWE. So, yes, this is perhaps, the limits of, my ability, well, not ability, but limits of where I'm at. But anyway, I want to get off talking about it and all that. I don't want to say anything more, really, because it doesn't interest me. We've said the same thing about 1,000,000 times about it, but every time it comes up or something around her comes up, it's just oh yeah, right. And that's why I was saying, maybe if she's gonna have a match against Lay, have it be on TV again. I don't know. That's the main reason as well. I want them to get away from Lay, because there's that's the only other person that I can see in the division that's already got an established feud. Obviously, you can establish feuds with Lay, but it's yeah, that would be one of the more obvious ones that you're already going to go for. Besides maybe turning Zaya heel, and I don't really see that. So I just see that there's nothing else that you can really do with Lay. There isn't, again, maybe you debut somebody, but, until that point, I just don't see that you've got anyone for her and anything for her to do. So, again, I feel like the division will be better off with Danny in that position, and then you're saying, okay, maybe we can't build to Indy Hartwell straight away because that's a bit too much or whatever it is. But, let's build to Indy Hartwell versus Danny again. And this time, Indy wins or whatever and gets the belt and all that stuff. And maybe it's even in Australia, I don't know, or something, I don't know. Be nice if it was in Australia. Maybe I'll come and actually get to see a show. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see about all that. But still, same thing for anybody. Just that's why I said they should start doing more international tours. There's many reasons for that, but again, just having the baby faces that you've got, sometimes Zaya Brookside or whoever, even Laying Lee or somebody like that, saying, oh, well, we're now going to have a match with, Danny in China or whatever. Something like that. Why not? And it's going to be a Hong Kong street fight or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But again, that sounds kind of cool. It's probably Lay is probably going to lose, but it'll be kind of fun, and it'll be better than just being oh yeah, you have random match on the next show that doesn't mean anything. It is in a good way sometimes to be oh okay, yeah, but we are building something else for them. But you can also be oh yeah, but we are building something else for them while they're over there having this somewhat thematic match or something else kind of match where it's there's more there than just, they're gonna wrestle, or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, that's how, the match or the thing that I've talked about most during this podcast episode has been this match. So you can tell that I actually care about, this specifically. I care somewhat about, Swan, and Francis, but I don't really have much of a care. Like, if Francis is the main eventer, cool, great. That's great. Because we'll wait and see more from him. Because, again, there's always going to be something else. Um, you know, and, like, I still feel like you probably have Casey Navarro coming back at some point next year. Is that a reason? Maybe, like, you could say, like, he is in that mid-card space. I don't know. I don't know, because it's like, you wouldn't put the X Division title on him, so it doesn't make sense for him to come back and beat him for the X Division title. It doesn't make sense for him to come back and beat him for the world title, but it makes sense for him to come back and beat him for the mid-card title. But it doesn't really make sense for Francis to win it right now. So, and I actually, this is one other match that's probably going to get announced, and I think we've already talked about it, is Macklin versus Stacks, or somebody versus Stacks on the pay-per-view. So, yeah, I don't know, because they already ended the last one in DQ, whatever, and we knew that. But it hasn't been announced. So it might get announced next week. Don't know. Who knows? They did also, like, I will talk about the AMC stuff now a little bit as well. I believe they did announce, like, that the Hardys and Elijah would be facing Order 4. So that is now confirmed. So that's good. There's a lot of stuff kind of now, like, for both of these shows. And I think I'm going to have to look it up. So, okay, so I didn't see this announced for Genesis. And I thought that somebody said something about the Knockouts Tag Team Championships recently. So they have a match between the Inspiration and the Elegance brand planned for the AMC debut. There's also something else that I just about forgot about, but I haven't mentioned it yet, so we'll go through that in a few moments. But yes, in regards to this, like I said before, like, what are you doing with the Elegance brand? Like, what are you doing with the Inspiration kind of thing? Like, what are you even doing with this, like, division? The division is very forgettable, you know, because there's not that many teams in it to start with. So, like, that's one big thing that you really need to, like, to do. You need to debut a lot of teams, not just a handful, a lot. I don't think you can do that really, because, like, if you debut one, like, more than one team at a time, it kind of takes away the shine and the focus from the one that you're debuting, or another one that you're debuting, or whatever. When you're debuting multiple different people, you kind of need to do this. Like, there needs to be maybe one for each division at the most, because each debut that you make that's on the same day or within the same moment, roughly, is like taking something away from somebody else in a way. So you can't have too many debuts, because it's like, oh, well, that takes away from somebody else's debut or whatever. But you need more people for this division, so I can see why some people would debut for this division, obviously, in some ways. But then again, maybe you're just like, we're done with this, like, experiment, it's over, I don't know. But again, it's like, neither team or neither group, whatever, has anything really to do with the other in that division anymore, really, and doesn't really have anyone else to really feud with. So it's like, well, what's the point in continuing to do that, unless it's like, so we'll bring in some NXT people or whatever. But yeah, whatever. The other thing that we have known about, and I don't know why we didn't really talk about it, because it's like, so what? Is that Joe Hendry will be appearing at Genesis. What for? I don't know. I'm in the position of saying that this is going to lead to nothing. So he's obviously just there for like a little bit of a promo or something that's leading to nothing. Like he's probably just saying thank you, ma'ams, to people or whatever. In my opinion. So, and again, why isn't it on the AMC debut? I don't know, but whatever it is whatever it is. So I'm not that interested, I don't think. So yeah, like I think we talked about this as well a while back, but we knew about this that Elijah and the Hardys would team up to fight Order 4, also on the Thursday Night Impact. Obviously, like, again, you're trying to balance out the fact that this is a go-home show with the idea that we're also going to potentially bring in some new people. So, you know, and maybe, again, that's maybe why you haven't got something for the tag team titles here at Genesis or coming up for Genesis. So maybe that's, like, like, if you're debuting somebody or a team for them to face, like, it's a really rushed turnaround for them to face somebody. So again, either you're debuting somebody that doesn't matter, or they're going to be on the pre-show or whatever, or they're not even having a match. So, yeah, that's maybe what you're doing here. You're trying to set things up for later, or maybe you're trying to debut some more other people down the line, or whatever. I don't really know that many female tag teams that are out there. Maybe the Hex. I don't know. I don't know if they're signed with anyone or whatever. So, and even if they are, I start to, like, they're not signed with WWE or AEW, so, or at least as far as I know, so those are the only ones that really, I would say, count very much, because, like, if you're just signed somewhere else, like, surely you can say, oh, well, I can make some dates here and I can make some dates there, you know. It's practically the indies after that, so I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so that's what we've got thus far for the AMC debut episode and for Genesis. So, and it's really hard to sort of pass them both apart in some ways because they're happening right around the same time. And I don't want to make two separate videos or whatever too much, because it's always too much. But anyway, it is what it is. So we've got all these things going down. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Because there's got to be at least one or two debuts at that show, at the AMC show. Maybe there's going to be some more debuts at Genesis. I don't know. But like I said, at a certain point, you know, you can't like, that's maybe why they might save some people to debut or whatever at Genesis, or even maybe like later down the year, who knows. But again, you have to save some of these things. They have to keep people tuning in when it's like dipping a little bit. It's like, oh man, we're starting to dip, people are losing interest. Okay, let's debut somebody or whatever. Let's bring somebody in and see how we go with them or whatever. So that's how you should be like using these things. Not just like that, but again, that is one great way to use these sorts of things. So it's like suddenly people peak back in interest, you know, but people certainly peak back in interest with more of the bigger shows and with some of the bigger matches and some of the bigger builds and whatnot as well. So, but yeah, that is it for now. Like I said, I don't know how we're going to go with next week, because there's going to be a lot to cover. But then again, like, I'm really not, like, as I've said, I'm not really a reviewer or whatever. I'm more of like, okay, cool, where's this going? Let's focus in on the pay-per-view type thing, like what matches are happening there, what stories are happening there, where is this leading, etc. But there certainly will be stuff to talk about, like whether Santana's won the belt, what condition the main event's going to be in, any other minor matches, I guess, that will be announced, and like potential fan outrage or potential fan issues or whatever there with that, especially. But yeah, like, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this one, and I hope you're hyped for the AMC debut and Genesis, and I hope you'll join me again in another one.